just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump. And you might think, what if I fall? Well, what if you don't? What if you fly?
I will explain structure and example classification. A classification paragraph generally has the following structure. The first is topic sentence, the second is category 1, the third is category 2, the fourth is category 3, and the last is concluding statement. The next is the examples. I took an examples of a paragraph from a PDF book with the titles categories of friends. As you can see, I have marked the sentence. In topic sentence, it shall identify what is to be divided and what categories to use in paragraph. In categories, it contains divided items or things that you want to tell to the readers. You might can start it with category 1, category 2, category 3, and etc. Don't forget that each category must include explanation, examples, or details in order to distinguish it from the other categories. Transitions are important in a classification paragraph. They tell readers when you are moving from one category to another. For example, is the first type and the second type. They can also indicate which categories you think are more important than others. For example, is the most important and the least important.
Hello, my name is Arwa Forhana. Here I would like to explain about the tips on planning classification. So the first point we got, what should you do or what should we do on planning classification? The first, determine the purpose of your classification. Are you intending to inform your reader about the differences in the categories or persuade him or her that one category is superior to the others? Number 2, we got determine the categories of your classification, making sure that there is no overlap in the categories. Make sure a group won't fit into more than one category. And then the third, determine the differentiating characteristics of your categories. The fourth, outline your essay, making sure that you discuss the same topics for each class or category and that you discuss them in the same order. So the next point we got, what we should not do on planning a classification. Number 1 is avoid simplification. Be careful not to stereotype or misrepresent the subjects of your classification. Number 2, we got avoid overlapping categories. Make sure your types fit into only one category. For example, you wouldn't want to classify responses to stress as self-destructive, destructive to others, and annoying, because annoying responses could be either self-destructive or destructive to others. And then the third we got, avoid missing categories. Make sure your categories account for all the types of your subject. For example, it wouldn't be accurate to classify horses as only Appaloosas, quarter horses, or thoroughbreds, because there are many other types of horses such as Poluminous, Salisdales, and so on. As we move to the next subchapter, which is about division. So, what is division? Division is separating a group or class of people, things, or ideas into categories you establish. In division, the writer divides a single subject into its component parts, the way a pie is divided into pieces, and examines each of the components in order to clarify the meaning of the whole. For example, a writer might divide the components of a luxury hotel into rooms, service, restaurants, and amenities such as pool, sauna, and etc. in order to demonstrate a point about what it takes to be a good luxury hotel or to show that Hotel X is a superb luxury hotel. So that's all, thank you. Next we move to the next presenter.
The structure of division paragraph. As you can see in the picture, basically, a division paragraph has the same structure as classification paragraph. It contains topic sentence for sure, categories, and concluding sentence. In topic sentence, it should identify what is to be divided and what categories to use in paragraph. In categories, it contains divided items or things that you want to tell to the readers. You might can start it with category 1, category 2, category 3, and etc. Don't forget that each category must include explanations, examples, or details in order to distinguish it from the other categories. In concluding statement, we should write a conclusion that restates the topic sentence and basically sums up what the reader to know or remember about your paragraph. Okay, here's the example of division paragraph. The title is Why I Don't Have a Credit Card. As you can see, I wrote the topic sentence with the red color here. There are 3 reasons why I don't have a credit card, right? So, with this topic sentence, the writer tries to divide 3 reasons why she or he doesn't have a credit card. And then, can you see yellow highlights? Those are called transition signals or transition words. Yes, right. The first reason, the second reason, and the third reason are transition words. Transition words aided to introduce each category. Next, the green highlights. Can you see that? The green highlights are called categories. Each categories show the reason why the writer doesn't have a credit card, as he or she explained it before. In category 1, the writer says, using a piece of plastic instead of cash makes it too easy for me to buy things I can't afford. In category 2, the writer says, I would end up in debt like my friend Sarah, the shopaholic. In category 3, the writer says, the difficulty in understanding the fine print in the credit card contract. And the last, the one with red writing, is a conclusion that restates the topic sentence. Next, transition signal or transition words. Here's the list of useful transition signals that can help us to write categories in division paragraph. We have sequence transitions and additional transition here. Please take a look at the table. That's all for me. Thank you so much. The next material will be explained by Audri.
So everyone, hello, I'm Audri. I'm here to explaining about tips on planning division paragraph. So the first one is to choose a subject that lends itself to division, one that can be broken down into components. Make sure the summary of the parts equal the whole in division and make sure not leave our components. For example, you would confuse your reader if you divide the components of a good restaurant into service, atmosphere, and price but left out food. The second is list the component parts of a subject, making sure there is no overlap in the parts. Each part of a diffusion should be unique. For example, if you divide the parts of an action movie into the actors, the plot, the special effects, the music, and the stars, you will run into trouble because the actors and the stars are overlapping categories. Number 3. If you're writing an essay or paragraph, decide how you will divide your subject into paragraph. If there are many parts to your subject, see whether his parts can be divided into large categories that could be discussed in paragraph. For example, if you're dividing a political party platform into its part, you may be able to divide the parts into economic policy, social policy, and foreign policy. So, the next material is about differences between analysis paragraph and diffusion paragraph. So let's talk about diffusion first. Diffusion is the process of breaking a hole in the parts. The diffusion parts of the paragraph looks at how one big project or subject can be broken into several smaller parts. The diffusion paragraph identifies the parts of subsystem of something in relation to the whole. And then, classification paragraph. Classification deals with an assortment of things that share certain similarities. Classification is taking the items and putting them into different categories.